Good evening. Today is the 5th day of November 2015, and we continue with our explorations in Savitri, Book 1, Canto 5, as always with our brother Alok. Namaskar. And always as preparation, I read something from Mother about Savitri. Mother wrote this on 4th of July, 1961. She says, "You know, Savitri is an exact description, not literature, not poetry, although the form is very poetical. An exact description, step by step, paragraph by paragraph, page by page. As I read, I relived it all. Besides, many of my own experiences that I recounted to Sri Aurobindo seem to have been incorporated into Savitri. He has included many of them. This explained to me why suddenly, as I read it, I lived the experience, line by line, page by page. The realism of it is astounding."
Powerful. And the mother has used the word realism. Because very often there is a tendency to regard these experiences as unreal and illusory, while the material world is so much real and concrete. So this is spiritual realism, if one likes. That there is.
And it's such a grounded word,
Yes,
isn't it?
that's what.
I mean, it's not somewhere up here,
Yes.
floating in the
Yes.
clouds. Direct.
And also that through the medium of words and sounds, Sri Aurobindo, this, to use a word which really falls flat when we speak of Sri Aurobindo, but still had the capacity to recreate the state of consciousness through this body of sound words. It's something amazing. He could, to somebody who is open and receptive, the state of consciousness, he could give us a glimpse of that through this body of words, which is really amazing. So, it's not just poetry, it is a
It's mantra.
poetry that creates, yes, the mantra.
It
the
is
poetry
mantra.
that creates.
I think for me, all of Savitri is mantra.
Yes, yes, yes.
It may vary in its intensity in some areas,
Yes,
but it never falls below the
Yes.
level that he set
yes,
for
absolutely. So, and that is the main purpose, even with mother's writings. I was reading something very interesting. Someone asked the mother, "What is it that you put in your words which opens an inner door, makes certain things suddenly flash across and become clear to us?" And the question is almost running into 5-6 lines. And the mother replies in one word, consciousness. And then she says that, in fact, she says something very interesting. At one place, she says that prayers and meditations, it has the same vibration and a mantric quality as we find in Savitri. It's in that Blessings of Grace recently. It's a very powerful book.
And we have Prithvi Singh's interesting statement to Sri Aurobindo that this was not Mother praying to the divine,
Yes, yes, yes.
but Mother teaching us
How to pray, how to aspire. So the
we're
mysteries and now we are on the door of the mystery. We who regard this outer world as so much true and real and believe, of course, ignorantly believe, and due to the veil of ignorance, that all else is simply an imagination, a hallucination, unreal, etc., etc. Here comes Sri Aurobindo's revelation. All's miracle here and can by miracle change. That's right. Absolutely right. This is that secret nature's edge of might on the margin of great immaterial plains, in kingdoms of an untrammeled glory of force, where mind is master of the life and form. See, it's so interesting that in each world, the different worlds have been created keeping one principle in the forefront and as a master where others must subordinate. So, in the material world, matter is the master, and mind and life and soul and spirit, everything else has been subordinated. And that's why they emerge with great difficulty, struggling.
Yes.
Whereas in the worlds of mind, the mind is the master and matter there. There also there is a matter because there is form, there is life because there is existence, there is energy, there are beings. But they are subordinated to the mind. And this explains the mystery. Very often when we say, oh, a thought can cure, yes, it's right. But very often then people ask that why doesn't it cure in everyone? Because matter also has to become receptive, open, and plastic. That is the big challenge of working with matter and upon earth. It must change its law of working, it must surrender, open, and receive, become receptive to the divine. Then there will be an authentic play of the divine upon earthly life.
Has matter changed at all through physics and science?
No, but physics and science can discover changes in matter, only they may not know that these are changes introduced because of, the pressure of a certain consciousness. And I do believe that certain things which are being discovered, they are the result of the effect of the new consciousness upon matter.
Yes.
But they just observe that there is something happening, but the cause always eludes. So matter is changing, and Mother spoke about it. It's becoming more and more plastic and more supple, more and more fluid. The true matter is emerging through. So this is the problem. But in that kingdom, those worlds where mind is master of the life and form, and soul fulfills its thoughts by its own power. So what it wills, that becomes. So you see, again, this is the big challenge, because if having inner experiences, many mystics had inner experience, but matter doesn't accept it, it doesn't receive it. It says, all right, you can have your inner experiences as many as you like, but I'll remain what I am, prone to disease, death, suffering, etc., etc. So the big challenge before Mother and Sri Aurobindo was how to change matter, make it more receptive, more open to the light. And that in itself is a whole big branch of this yoga, which we find nowhere. This emphasis on matter, because it has to become plastic to the spiritual light.
And this Holocaust of the Supreme
Yes,
was the only thing that could change it.
yes. At one place, the Mother also says that wherever we have put our feet, there light and hope has gone into matter. Otherwise, it's full of that darkness from which it has emerged.
And we have that line in Savitri.
We have that line.
Where she presses her feet, course
course,
streams of an entrancing
Yes,
ananda.
yes. In the Mother, we have that. Yes. She meditates upon mighty words and looks on the unseen links that join the parted spheres. This she here is now the Mahamaya, as she is called in Indian thought, that she is the one who joins the higher and the lower. Sri Aurobindo will go at great length to describe. So she receives within herself all the infinity of Brahman, but gives it finite forms and shapes. So that's how mind is Maya, and she is the presiding deity. She meditates upon mighty words and looks on the unseen links that join the parted spheres. Thence to the initiate who observes her laws, She brings the light of her mysterious realms. So, all that is concealed from us. But some who are initiates, to some whom she feels, decides, and knows they are ready, by her grace, she reveals the mystery. The mother speaks about this. This is also similar to the story of Sphinx, that she guards the gates of sleep, but to some she gives her secret. So, this is the secret she gives to those who are initiated and those who observe her laws, not who trample upon the laws that have gone into creation. They are not ready. They will move in a circle of disorder, disorganization. But those who observe the laws, now these laws are, of course, neither human laws nor moral and ethical laws, but the divine law which is there in creation, based upon oneness. And those who live according to that, she begins to reveal the mystery. Here, where he stands, his feet on a prostrate world, his mind no more cast into matter's mold, over their bounds in spurts of splendid strength, she carries their magician processes and the formulas of their stupendous speech, till heaven and hell become purveyors to earth, and the universe the slave of mortal will. So she has the secret of both, and she can reveal it, and she can slowly we begin to know, become aware that this earth is only a small fragment, and there are countless forces from all over which watch over it, which have their own influence upon it, and life blossoms under this dual work. And these forces begin to yield when, like Ashwapati, one has gone into the beyond, or of course by her grace. A mediatrix with veiled and nameless gods, whose alien will touches our human life. So she works mostly through the gods. They are the ones who carry that secret truth, that word, and then they leap into the creation and carry her fiat, carry her diktat. And based on that, they weave this warp and woof of creation. Imitating the world magician's ways, she invents for her self bound free will its grooves. She plays at being bound, she plays at freedom. It's beautifully described in Indian thought as this Maya has two forms, two layers or two aspects to her. On one side, she is the Avidyamay Maya, one who creates the ignorance and forms of ignorance, and the other who is Vidyamay Maya, the one who creates forms based on oneness, who knows the oneness. And both these are necessary for the total world plan. So first we go through the forms of ignorance, the Avidyamay Maya, where we experience bondage. But it is a self bondage. The soul has chosen to be in that, and she has created these bonds which are necessary for our growth. But a time comes when we must cross over to the other side. So this too is she. But we are repeatedly cautioned, especially in this yoga, because there is a tendency sometimes for people to say everything is mother. So someone asked Sri Aurobindo about it, that everything is mother. And Sri Aurobindo says, yes, that is true. But we are not to identify with the mother in the lower nature, but with the mother in the higher nature. So it's very interesting that these are forms of ignorance she has created for her own working. Even the darkest ones. This is a very interesting, in the Upanishads, there are Dash Mahavidyas, the 10 levels at which the Divine Mother resides. And Sri Aurobindo, hints at that even in Ahana. So the highest is Tripur Sundari, the most beautiful of all. The beauty that cannot be embodied in all the three worlds. But in the lowest, she becomes Dhumavati, her face covered with darkness. So, and in between at every plane, She is the master. And she creates energies, forms, beings, and processes appropriate to that plane. So she binds and she liberates when the time comes. So it's all her play. And feigns for magic's freaks a binding cause. She has to create, this link of cause and effect. There comes a time when it vanishes. That you discover that this cause and effect is simply a convenient device to understand creation in bits and parts. Like if we start our journey from this side of the ocean to reach the Atlantic, so we have to say we are starting from Bay of Bengal, and the water begins to change, but it's a very imperceptible change. There is the roughness changes, the color changes, all these things change. But right from this point to that point, it's the same water. It is the same power which carries us through. So this sense of separate, distinct, different is her creation. It's a magic process, and yet we seem to be moving from one point to another. So there is a cause and there is an effect, and but in that total vision, everything is coexistent simultaneously, and the cause and effect are intricately linked by a wisdom that knows the whole plan. So we think that, oh, we did this, therefore this happened. This happened, therefore that happened. But there is something else behind this, the original cause, if you like. And that is pushing all these things together.
I've always been interested in that line in Savitri where he uses effect first, effect and cause.
Yes.
Not cause and effect.
This is another thing which is very interesting, that karmic theory, Sri Aurobindo is the first person, as far as I have read, and I have really read a lot, Eastern and Western, who in his interpretation of the karmic law, or in his vision of the karmic law, brings in the teleological aspect of the future. Normally we say our past karmas determine our present and the future. But the future is already drawing us through a series of consequences which seem to appear because of certain things done in the past. But it's the future which is drawing you through this whole chain. So again, like it's the future. And the mother has used the word super grace, which reorganizes things in our life, gives them a kind of consequence, and we wonder why. And people normally, blame it on the past. But it's not the past, it's the future which is drawing us through this whole series of seeming cause and effect. So the effect, the final thing, is the one which is the first. And in between there are series of causes and effects. So it's an amazing. All worlds she makes the partners of her deeds, accomplices of a mighty violence, her daring leaps into the impossible. All worlds, everything, the secret of everything is held by her. And what she will send, where and when and why, none can understand. It's a magic process. And we just see a small fragment, even in cause and effect. We see something very immediate physical. Most of the time we do not even know, like this present problem going on. Many people have, an upset stomach. And time to time, there are waves of diseases which come to the ashram. And people are wondering, is it water, is it this, it is that. When it happened in the ashram long back, and it comes from time to time. So mother says, I saw the adverse formation coming from that side. It rumbles, touches, and triggers here and there, inner beings, outer personalities, bodies, and there are different effects. Like again the eruptions of the volcanoes, as well as riots and violences upon earth. The word she has used is violence, and leap, and impossible. At one place, the mother says in the agenda that somehow I have always been associated with all the great revolutionary movements.
Yes.
And then she speaks about the Chinese and the Russian Revolution. And of course, she doesn't say, but Indian Revolution, of course, we know Sri Aurobindo. So, how she can suddenly change things, and this violence, almost like Kali taking a leap, cutting through several layers of consequences, cause effect chains, and pulling the whole thing with one mighty jolt. So, these are her workings, and gods are simply accomplices in that process. From every source she has taken her cunning means. She draws from the free love marriage of the plains in, in matter, in bodies, in beings. All kinds of things are put together and shaken and created a kind of strange mixture. And yet, this is necessary. We may think why? Why in, people who are so good, so wonderful, they have, seeming hardships in life. Well, this is part of the big plan. And she brings all kinds of things together to create. And how beautifully Sri Aurobindo uses the word free love marriage.
Of the
Elements,
plains.
yes, elements for her creations tour de force. So somebody is walking on the way of the gods, and suddenly he trips over and falls on the ground and becomes a worm. There is a story in Indra's, the mighty king, that he has to be taught the lesson of humility. And Indra has that element in him which, where he becomes ambitious and proud. And then suddenly events take a certain situation, and while he's on the peak, he's suddenly cursed by Rishi Agastya, and he falls and becomes a worm, falls flat on the ground. Now, this is a tour de force. Literally, that what is circuitous way. But this is how evolution takes place, because this teaches us the lesson of humility. And gods are there to ensure it. At one place, the mother says, man is greater than the gods, but he doesn't know it. And he will not know it as long as he is arrogant and proud. And that's why repeatedly he has to face the lesson of failure and fall so that he can become humble. Just to teach that much.
In that little booklet, she ends with, verily, verily, in humiliation
Yes.
is found the cradle of glory.
Yes, it's in words of long ago. Absolutely. So one has to go through this process, cyclic process. So, one doesn't understand what happened. It was something so nice, and people have their own interpretations. But behind it all, it is she who makes the being go through all kinds of experiences, the highs and the lows, eventually to prepare the being in its integrality for something else. So this is the truth which is being revealed.
Now he gets into some incredible words.
Yes.
Oh.
Why don't you read a bit of this? Yes.
A wonder weft of knowledge incalculable.
We can by no means of technology, mathematics, even Sri Aurobindo used the word mathematized omnipotence. You cannot know. It's incalculable by any finite process.
She has combined
A compendium. There's a
Ah.
line here. Yes.
a compendium of divine inventions feats. She has combined to make the unreal true or liberate suppressed reality.
Divine invention, the sun and the stars, the ocean, so much power and lives within its limits. And out of matter, suppressed life begins to emerge. And we see suddenly that the brown earth is covered with the green of the algae, moss, and then, initial life, how it sprouts up and covers everything. It's so amazing. All these are divine inventions.
It's amazing to me that many of these forms still persist
Yes.
from millenniums.
Yes. No, there is a whole interesting story which is scientific truth, which is very interesting. We talk about the arbitrariness, the caprice, and how we are talking of that. And dinosaurs at one point had threatened the whole earth. It's a fact, because they were so mighty, and I mean, no creature could stand before them, and they could eat anything from plants to animals to anything that came their way. At that point, imagine of all the things, an asteroid comes and kills them in toto. The interesting part is this asteroid destroyed almost all forms of life on Earth. There were very few forms at that point of time. So the big documentary which had come on BBC. Of course, they don't interpret it this way, but how I looked at it is something very interesting. After that, after a while, the new forms of life again emerged, but they were much more in variety than the dinosaur, than the that dinosaur era. It's called some Paleozoic or something. I may be mistaken with the words. Subsequently, the life forms that came were many more, much more plastic, and that's how the earth has grown. So, how even it makes destruction a means for a manifold creation. So, it's amazing that how it works.
In her unhedged Circean wonderland,
So,
pell-mell she shepherds her occult mightinesses.
so this, of course, Circean wonderland is the Greek reference to the Greek
Yes,
mythology, but
yes.
the word is now used even in English. Basically, Circe or Circe, she is the magician who would turn human beings into pigs, swines, by giving them something to eat, meat and wine, and then she would put a magic wand. So Odysseus comes across
Coming in the ship,
coming in the ship, and then first his followers go, all the other people go, while he doesn't go, and they eat and drink, and then she turns them into pigs, basically changes human beings into an animal form. Then one of them somehow escapes because he had grown suspicious, and so he doesn't take the wine, and he somehow manages to escape and comes and tell Odysseus. So Odysseus is fine, so he also goes there, and she offers him the meat and the wine. So he feigns as if he is interested, but then suddenly at one point he unsheaths his sword and tells her that I am going to kill you if you don't. It's very interesting, actually, the story now that we are talking about it. Odysseus has been warned about it already, and he is told that she will even offer you to take you to the bed. So she does that, and she's extremely beautiful. And Odysseus goes up to there, and then he unsheaths the sword and says, now, because she is also in a state where she is almost surrendered to him. And then she says that, look, I am going to kill you unless you change them all. So not only she changes, then she gives him the secret of the rest of the journey. Tells him how you can go, how you can. There are two routes. So it's very interesting that Circe in Homer's Odysseus, Odyssey, has a dual role. It's very hard to put her either into a negative or a positive. Because at one level she turns human beings into swine. Well, in a certain sense, they were not ready for anything greater. But at another level, she reveals the secret to Odysseus and tells him how exactly to go ahead. So it's very interesting. And this reminded me of Circean wonderland. Pell-mell she shepherds her occult mightinesses, her mnemonics of the craft of the infinite. So there it was, the wand and the magic formula, incantation.
yes,
The mnemonics. If you see how things are arranged, it's very interesting. They have their own rhythm, but we don't discover it. Because our intellectual language is, of course, become very fixed. There's even a sound rhythm in that, which we have yet to.
and we had read previously the rhythms and meters of the stars.
Yes, rhythms and meters of the stars. Jets of the screened subliminals caprice, tags of the gramarye of inconscience, freedom of a sovereign truth without a law. All these he mixes together. Freedom, bondage, inconscient, the superconscient, thoughts that were born in the immortal's world, oracles that break out from behind the shrine, warnings from the demonic, not demonic, warnings from the demonic inner voice, and peeps and lightning leaps of prophecy and intimations to the inner ear. So, all these are part of her plan, and all these come from her. Even the guidance, the suggestions that help us, lead us, the oracles, the prophetic words, the warnings, all these are her creation, her doing, her leadings. Abrupt interventions, stark and absolute. And this, of course, so many times I'm sure all of us have experienced. Abrupt interventions, something unprecedented, unexpected. That's why when Sri Aurobindo said it is the hour of the unexpected, of the incalculable, well, he was putting in a secular language that it is the hour of the Divine Mother. Because she is full of the unexpected and the incalculable.
The hour of God.
Incalculable is her mystery and her use.
Yes.
Cannot know. Abrupt interventions, stark and absolute, and the superconscient's unaccountable acts have woven her balanced web of miracles and the weird technique of her tremendous art. So, what is this balance? On one side, out of inconscience, things are being pulled out, given form, shape, and they would remain fixed there. But there is also the law which comes from the higher planes, the interventions, and suddenly out of matter, life emerges and defies gravity. And birds grow wings, and butterflies begin to fly, and the earth is covered with colors. It is one example of intervention. And there have been several such interventions, both negative and positive. Negative in the sense that things were eliminated, the mammoth. Anything which somehow becomes a threat to earth. I mean, that's the thing that people who talk about save the tiger don't understand. But, I mean, save the tiger, now there is also save the cow. Why not? So if tigers are worth saving. But the point is that these interventions, it is not just the human beings. Sri Aurobindo long back wrote about the tiger and the deer in a poem. That the swift-footed, timid deer survives and grows, and the tiger begins to dwindle. So one who prays is preyed upon by the all life and withdrawn back. So it's a whole balance which is so delicate that we cannot understand. Of course, we as human beings invariably upset the balance, but that has been also taken into account. It will eventually push Earth to an extreme where all collective aspiration will come up for beauty, for light, for love, for the intervention. And of course, in India, this intervention is known as the avatar who comes and changes the course of history. And the weird technique of a tremendous art. Look at a butterfly's wings. We don't have to go far.
No.
Or the leaves, the flowers. Countless, countless. What technique? What way? Splash of colors.
Tremendous
Unimaginable.
art.
Yes. Tremendous art.
Yes.
Just the clouds in the skies, the way they form. There is a science behind it, but there is also an art.
It's a beautiful recollection of the Chilean poet who, Pablo, not coming, but he said, if I lived in Colombia, I would be a collector of clouds.
Oh. Yes.
Pablo Neruda.
Yeah, yes.
See that beauty of that
beauty.
sense.
And so casually scattered.
Yeah.
So, this bizarre kingdom passed into his charge. Now comes the master stroke that Ashwapati now mastered all this. It's weird. There's no logic to it. There's no cause and effect. Human reason, it defies all kinds of calculations and human reason. But Ashwapati now has the secret law, and she has bared all her truths before him. bizarre. Sri Aurobindo has used the word bizarre because it defies any logic, any mental understanding. As one resisting more, the more she loves. Look, Sri Aurobindo's even understanding of human nature in its most delicate and sensitive aspects is so profound. On one side, it is the play of the Prakriti. On the other side, you can see that the feminine in various forms. As one resisting more, the more she loves. Her great possessions and her power and lore she gave, compelled with the reluctant joy. What words? I mean, what an amazing knowledge, intimate knowledge of humans' psychology, of the woman. People don't understand. But look here, Sri Aurobindo, even about this, that her great possessions and her power and lore she gave, compelled with a reluctant joy.
Reluctant joy.
She is refusing, resisting, and yet there is a joy in that giving, as if it is only to enhance the joy. It's, the more there is a resistance and reluctance, then the peak moment, the climax has its own beauty. And how Sri Aurobindo has brought in what would normally could have passed as a banal moment
Yes.
into the most sublime truths ever revealed. Nature does that. For a long time, humanity tries to get a secret, it resists. Then a time comes when she gives the secret. And it's amazing. Reluctant joy. And suddenly we see that there is a whole change in.
And that beautiful. As one resisting
Yes.
more,
The more she loves. Because she wants the lover to be ready, to be prepared. And not just like that,
Yes.
It's something amazing that, since we are at it, that in Indian thought, very often people speak about, nowadays about physical relation, and it's more like an animal kind. But there is another dimension to it which is revealed in Indian thought, that the actual act derives its importance, if at all, from the preparation that goes behind it. And that preparation it's described in elaborate details, that both the woman and the man prepare themselves in an elaborate way, including, chanting of mantras, purifying their being, something which is so sublime. I mean, it's unimaginable. There was an effort to even raise the most animal things into something very sublime.
Tantra had a lot of this.
Yes, lot of this. And how suddenly Sri Aurobindo brings this at a very different level altogether. That, nature resisting. And then the more she loves, the more she resists, because it's necessary for the progress, for the growth. If nature were to reveal all her truths to man will end up destroying each other. So she doesn't give it so easily. Hundreds and hundreds of years, scientists work, one pointed, many have perished, Marie Curie and her husband Pierre Curie. And then at some point, suddenly, nature reveals the secret. And how? By filling her body with cancer. Paradox. She who discovered the cure of cancer, she and her husband, of course, who is not recognized, both age. He was the one who was working. And
No, she was the one. Curie was, she was the one.
So when he was working, then he died and then she took over. And she discovered the cure for cancer, but that material also causes radiation. So how she reveals after great preparation, readiness. Otherwise these things can be so dangerous. All these powers. But a time comes when herself she gave for rapture and for use. Nature's powers. Absolved from aberrations in deep ways, the ends she recovered for which she was made. She turned against the evil she had helped. Now again, she is the one who was the force behind even what looked like evil. This is a very wide and profound truth Sri Aurobindo is revealing. Truth of the Tantra, but in a very, very vast way. There is a poem of Sri Aurobindo, Rakshasas. And there, all the gods go and pray, the seers and the gods go and pray to Krishna that Ravana is tyrannizing the earth. Please do something about it. And Sri Krishna says, well, he deserves it. For 1,000 years he has reigned, for another 1,000 he must reign. So, is that so? Yes, yes, he has deserved all this and he will reign. But yes, he will fall. A time will come for his fall also. But he has to give passage to the evolutionary force. So then the scene shifts and Ravana is praying before Kali. And Kali comes happy and says, ask what you want. And he says that if I have to fall, let me not fall to the gods. Let me not fall to this or that. Let me fall to the animal or man. And then Sri Aurobindo interprets it beautifully that Ravana the Asura is needed to subdue the Rakshasa in man. Asura is an intellectual, evil, but of an intellectual kind. The ideologue, who is very violent, but in the plane of ideas. We see them plenty, which go pass unnoticed. They are very, very violent, extremely violent, but purely in the realm of ideas. The Rakshasa is violent on the physical plane.
Right.
So he comes and subdues it. So all these impulses are sublimated into the ideologically intolerant Asura, who must dominate, who must crush all other kinds of ideologies. And then this too has to be sublimated into a more humanized form and ways of life, or a more simpler, or degenerate into a more simpler animal way of life. But these are the only two recourses left for it. But look at a point of time, Kali herself gives the strength and Kali herself slays. So the evil she had helped at a point of time, because then it was not evil, but a necessary stage in the progress. But a time comes when that which was necessary becomes evil. And then it must be destroyed and cast aside. Napoleon.
Yeah.
That she helps him. He is needed. The arm of God striding through Europe.
Yeah, Sri Aurobindo's
Yes.
words. I saw God.
Yes, it was God striding.
Yes.
But the day Napoleon goes into that state, I am France and France is me. Kali says, enough of it. You have done your bit. Out you go. So that's, the evil she had helped.
Yes.
So much bloodshed, so much, happened that time. She turned against the evil she had helped. Her engined wrath, her invisible means to slay, her dangerous moods and arbitrary force, she surrendered to the service of the soul and the control of a spiritual will. So that's how,
Here is Ashwapati.
yes, Ashwapati, who has mastered all these energies of nature. Again, in Perseus, we see that, Polydion, who represents an earlier stage of evolution, where he believes in human sacrifice and dark rituals. And for a long time, the kingdom thrived on that. And Poseidon was the deity who would, help. And then the time comes that this must change. So comes Athene and her child Perseus, who must liberate and change. It's a whole evolutionary story.
Yeah.
So Poseidon, the Rudra, that consciousness which is governing the earth must change now and evolve into the gentler, brighter and more luminous ways of Athene, the Maheshwari. So this is how the evolution takes place.
And the deliverer comes.
Deliverer comes. And both are her play. At one stage this is needed. At another stage, so all this she offered to Ashwapati, a greater despot, tamed her despotism. Here is a despot with his will that no, there is no other way you can make nature yield you. If you try with reason and logic to find her ways, you'll fail. You'll make systems, theories, conceptions, ways of knowledge, and she'll say, all right, I'll shut you in your philosophy. But you can master only by two ways, either a persistent will of the tapasvi or by surrendering to her and praying that you reveal your secret by your grace. She doesn't otherwise. Conquered, assailed, surprised in the fortress of herself, conquered by her own unexpected king. Who is the king? Self, with a capital S. he has come. And oh, you came? Then you see that all this play, the play of the bright and the dark, the gods and the titans, she had put as obstacles and helpers, because she knows she is waiting for him to come. But he must deserve. So he must battle with the titans, not be distracted by the lure of the gods, and prepared by both. Suddenly one day he arrives and says, "Here I am, your master." She has arranged the play. So it's so interesting.
Powerful
Fulfilled and ransomed by her servitude. Look at these lines. Fulfilled and ransomed together. By her servitude, she yielded in a vanquished ecstasy. Her sealed hermetic wisdom forced from her fragments of the mystery of omnipotence. This is how her play has been arranged. She becomes the dark and she becomes the bright, conjured in Indian thought as Kali and Gauri. She is the dark mother, the mother of demons and the doers of violent deeds. They worship Kali. Kali the dark. I am not talking of Mahakali. And the gods worship her as Gauri, the fair one, the compassionate. But they are two aspects of the same mother. For the dark deities, she leans down in darkness, becomes dark, assumes their hue and color, leads them through the way of the battle and the rumor and the strength and violent deeds till they are ready. And when they are ready, she slays their heads and drinks their blood, purifies them of all that was dark inside, and they are reborn as the gods offered to Gauri. So this is her play. Yes. So we'll stop here.